So I guess, and then at a certain point, you got to where you were composing your own music.
Right. Actually, I guess when I was a junior. No, I actually started writing tunes, I guess, when I was a senior in high school. And I guess I could change this screen. I didn't think about doing that. Yeah, when I was a senior in high school, I started writing my own tunes. Um, I guess I had sort of a new age sort of feel, like piano with strings and stuff like that. But I was really influenced by, you know, prog rock bands, Emerson Lake and Palmer and Genesis and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's where the composing started. Was when I was a senior, and then when I was in college, I I thought, well, man, this is kind of cool. Maybe I'll start. Well, I tell you, before I started a band, I there's some friends of mine that I met in high school, Brandon Hicks and Ryan Frith. Well, Brandon went to high school with me, and Ryan he lived in another county. So, but they were friends and they'd played together, and we started a band, and that broke up over the summer. But Brandon had put out a call to a bunch of guys from all over North Georgia, really. One Tyson Farmer, who's still a good friend of mine, who is from Kennesaw, and a guy named Ben Davidson from Toccoa, Georgia. And they started playing together, and these guys were just insane musicians. Like, they could play. I mean, when we got together for our first jam session, they were playing tunes like Heart of the Sunrise by Yes, and YYZ by Rush, and Frank Zappa tunes, and Mahavishnu Orchestra. Just the most, just from a rock standpoint, like the hardest stuff you could you could think to pick to play, and I really wasn't. I couldn't hang, man. I didn't know how to. Like, this is an E minor chord, I think. I was really kind of behind the curve with those fellas, and so I really couldn't hang. And with that, in so many words, they didn't really invite me to come back after that first jam session. But I thought, well, I'll start my own band. So I put out some flyers, and that's when Steve Hatch contacted me. He called me. He answered my first ad. I think it was November of 1993 was my first phone conversation with him, and so yeah, and that's when we did the Volare thing, and that's where the composition stuff really kind of took off.
So that was I guess that was a primary motivator for you. Is you decided, in order to get up to speed, you wanted to be able to control the compositions and kind of work at your own level, or?
Well,
I mean, these guys, it might seem ambitious to go out on a limb and say, well, I'm going to start, I can't hang with these guys playing these covers, but I can compose. And so I guess if you're able to compose within your own ability, and then you kind of grow that way, but you needed to play with some people. And so was that, and then build up your vocabulary that way, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I knew I wanted to play music. I knew I wanted to be in a band. I don't know that I was thinking at the time. I'm not sure how much I was actually thinking about composition, though. It's not like, I'd written all these tunes and I need to find somebody to play them with. Who will play my songs or something like that. I just saw these guys like playing all this cool music that I loved and that was inspiring to me, and I thought, well, I'm not good enough to play with them, so I'll find some other guys to play with. So I'd say the composition probably came later. The other thing is that those guys, Brandon and Ben and Tyson, those guys weren't writing music. Their thing was they were playing all this cool stuff that we all loved, but it wasn't. They didn't get together for the purpose of writing.
Right.
So